Okay, so let's talk about Chainsaw Man chapter 66, titled Bark. Now, before we jump into this week's chapter, let's take a look back at what happened in last week's chapter. For the gist of it, we learned that the Darkness Devil is a beast. He basically wiped out everyone that was sent to hell. From Quan Chi to the extra devil hunters to the fiends, all the violence fiend who turned out to be a badass, a true badass, was dicked down instantly. So yeah, let's see what happens in this week's chapter. So starting off, we have Aki and Angel just paralyzed in the presence of the Darkness Devil, not knowing they are not capable of doing anything. The Darkness Devil looks at Aki and it looks at Angel. The next thing you know, Angel's eyes are hemorrhaging. He's bleeding from his nose, eyes, and mouth, and he collapses instantly. And then it's Aki's turn. He starts to sweat and does the same thing. Blood pouring from his face, and he just collapses, knocked out. But that's when an interesting sight comes up. A pair of eyes peeks through the ground of hell. And the next thing you know, Prince is here with all the legs. And if you look carefully, you can see a little split between those legs. You know, if you're interested in some devils, yeah. Anyway, she's in hell somehow, and she attacks the Darkness Devil. But again, of course, we know this probably isn't gonna work, and she instantly gets the same treatment as everyone else, has her arms, but not just her arms, all of her legs removed at the same time as well. And she's on the ground, defenseless. But then we see Makima. This is the first time we've seen Makima in this fight, actually. She has not been in the game since before we actually met any of these new characters. But she's sitting on a pile of bodies. I'm gonna guess they're the bodies of the dolls in the real world, but with Makima, you never know. And that's where we get some interesting dialogue from her between Makima and Prince, which also is interesting because how are they communicating? But we don't get that answer. Makima goes over how she understands the Darkness Devil is kind of difficult and that Prince must be wanting her to come and help. Prince says, don't do it. But Makima gives her an order and says, summon me there. And Prince does it. And we've seen a zipper on Prince's face since the first time we saw her, this character. There was what looked like stitches or a zipper going up her face, straight up the middle. And it turns out it is a zipper. And her body just comes apart in two as Makima steps up from what's left of it. Apparently Prince is a portal, somehow. Hopefully it gets explained. Probably not. But anyway, we have Makima there, in hell now, face to face with the Darkness Devil. And they point at each other. Okay, you think like me, Makima's about to die, like everyone else. But no, she folds her finger and the Darkness Devil the faces are covered in a look of pain as it falls to the ground, bleeding. She injured it, which is insane. I have no words for that one. But Makima just, with no emotion on her face, starts walking towards Tolka, who got his head cut off last week's chapter. And before she gets to him, the Darkness Devil tries another attack. But this time it works, and Makima's right arm gets completely destroyed. But she's still moving. And the Darkness Devil pulls out its sword. Yes, it has a sword. And is ready to strike Makima. Right as Makima touches Tolka's head and says, Devil of Hell, I'll offer you everything, so please return us all back. Which is interesting because as she started saying that, it's interesting because she wasn't saying that. Tolka's disfigured head was. So we have so many questions. Makima at the beginning of this chapter was sitting on a pile of dolls. That's the one thing. Second thing, Makima was able to communicate with Prince in hell. The only other person we saw be able to communicate was the Master, as she was communicating to/through Tolka. And what is the Master but able to control dolls and talk through them. And now Makima was able to take some type of control over Toka and have him speak and make a contract with the devil of hell to send everyone back to Earth. And all this came rushing through my head right before we see Makima get stabbed through the chest with the Darkness Devil's sword. But then, we're back in the real world. It looks like everyone, or almost everyone, and their arms, which are still severed, are on top of the roof, back in the shopping center that we left earlier. And as we go from the roof to the ground, we see that a lot of dolls are dogpiling outside on the street. And we hear someone speaking, saying, "This is the power of the Darkness Devil? Impressive." And we see this disgusting, honestly, this is terrible, figurine of the Master's new body as she took in all that new power. And she has just multiple arms, 2 legs made of heads from her puppets, and it's disturbing, I'm not gonna lie. And she says she's beginning to understand everything. Like, okay. But that doesn't really matter. What matters is that she's strong as hell now. She instantly leaps up and is on top of the building. Like in one jump. She's like the Hulk out here. And she finds Makima, who is injured. She's on the ground with Denji. And what's interesting is Makima says, "Hello, Santa Claus." And it's hard to see, but I think in the scene, Makima is giving Denji blood from her face as she rips his ripcord and to get him to revive him. And she starts talking. She basically goes over what's happened. She says, "Our enemy has eaten the flesh of darkness. Attacking her in the dark won't work." So I'm guessing the sun's about to set. The Master, or Santa Claus, I guess we should start calling her, says, "Makima, your dream ends here." And we go back to Makima and she says, "Denji, won't you save me?" And that's where we get Denji facing off with Santa Claus. And as soon as he gets to his feet, he says, "Bark." Because if you remember, all the way back in the beginning, when we first met Makima and Denji, Makima demanded that Denji be her dog so that she could control him for the rest of his life. And Denji is still all for it. He's still here for it. But yeah, that was the end of the chapter. Again, it was a great chapter, basically because it's still giving us answers, but the more answers we get, the more questions I get, and it's insane. But besides that, thanks for watching. Tune in next time. Same Chainsaw channel. Yeah. Peace.